This summer, we're launching an exclusive course on creating the perfect high school transcript. Learn step by step how to craft a professional, comprehensive transcript that highlights your students' achievements. Don't miss out on this essential guide to ensure your homeschooler stands out. Go to today's show notes to join our email list and be the first to know when the course is coming. Transform your students' future today.
Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Statheros Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
We've talked about this before, thinking backwards first.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to think through all those little pieces and what's the most important piece? What do I fit in first? And then build on top of that. In essence, isn't that when you know the core of why you are homeschooling, even if it's a simple sentence, for me, it's based upon scripture, and mine comes from Colossians 2. My goal is that they may be encouraged in heart and united in love, so that they may have the full riches of complete understanding, in order that they may know the mystery of God, namely Christ. I never realized that I had like a concise why, but everything else I do falls into those boxes. But no year looks the same, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so you're always thinking about a new year. Sometimes I had a theme song for a year. One year it was, I'm going to sing my way out of trouble. And when things were hard, I just started playing the song so that I could okay, we've got this. Here's our theme song. And I should have written down the various ones that have popped up throughout the year.
I love that. I wish I had thought of that.
Well, there's still time. Every year is different. Every year is a new year, right? And it may just be the refrain, but it's certain songs that I'll turn on so that we can recenter, refocus. And sometimes it's really me. We know this as moms, right? We set the barometer of our home, or is it the thermometer? We set the temperature of our home in so many ways. So if we're centered and if we're reminded of why we're doing what we're doing, it doesn't make it easy, but it simplifies what we're after. We're still going to have the same obstacles, the same hurdles, the same learning struggles, the same disappointments, but knowing why we do what we do, in a way, for me, I think it ends up in, it's more of my life purpose. What do I want for my family? I want to raise them to know Christ, and everything else falls into line. I want to empower them to go out and make a difference in the world. Well, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to empower each one of them differently because they're different. And that's the thing, is nobody has the exact same why and way that they're going to go about it, but it's allowing those differences.
Kim, did you ever have a mission statement, like a formal mission statement, or what did you do?
No, I never did. I thought about it a lot, but never actually wrote anything down. But definitely, because who has the time? I guess some people do. But no, I mostly thought about the why, just like you were saying. Like Michelle said, it does help to come back to that, like whenever on the crazy days, especially thinking, now, why am I doing this again? What is the point? It's certainly a lot of it is academic, but it's not just that at all by any means. It's so much more about our kids' hearts. Michelle, you were mentioning the scripture that you guys used, and that reminded me of the one that I thought of really often. And I think I have even posted on my refrigerator for a while. That was Isaiah 54:13. All your sons will be taught of the Lord, and the well-being of your sons will be great. So I hung on to that over the years. So that was kind of the biggest thing. It was really, that's the bigger issue. And then it really came into focus when my husband had his cancer diagnosis and we were going through all of that. I could come back to that and go, oh, maybe I should put him into the school. But then I thought, no, because I want to keep an eye on their hearts and I want to keep them close. And then beyond that, it was more things like, well, thank goodness we have the freedom to do this. We've got the freedom to homeschool, the freedom to make our own schedules. We're not locked into somebody else's schedule. If my kids are struggling because of things for whatever it might be, then I can totally switch gears if I, as a parent, feel like that's what needs to happen. So really, it was a lot about freedom for us to do what was best for our particular family. What's really perfect for our family might not be perfect for somebody else's, and that's completely fine. As an evaluator, I see different families doing things for all sorts of reasons, homeschooling for all sorts of reasons, and they're all valid. Depends on what your family's needs are.
Is there something that you had beside that one verse on your fridge, like how would you remind yourself or go back to the thing to keep your purpose and the front and center of your mind?
Yeah, having that right there, like on a crazy day, and you just kind of like turn around and like try to like take a deep breath and get a grip. You're the grown up in the room. And so but it was a way of saying, okay, hold on, what's more important here, that we're arguing over times tables? Okay, what's the bigger heart issue here that we're talking about? So maybe we need to pause, push the pause button, and step back, walk away a little bit from this, and reconnect with their hearts. And then when timing is good, hit the times tables maybe from a different angle, or say what's going on that's distracting, whatever the case may be. And then definitely it absolutely made me go quietly in my own mind, okay, I've got to pray about this. And sometimes, like you were saying in the last podcast, I think, Colleen, oh, Jesus, help, where you just call out to the Lord and just say, I don't know what's going on here, but I know that the relationships and the character building are so much more important than the academics right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even recommend putting academics into your why when you're thinking about it, to be honest, because I don't know. I don't. Maybe academics. I mean, if my kids do well, I don't think I could ask them to do too much better than they are. But I think when you're looking at your values, like Kim, what I heard you say, your values are connecting with their hearts and handling stressful situations well and processing hard things. How much easier to go through a traumatic situation where a child's father has cancer and they don't know what that's going to bring, but then also going through just the daily life of supporting that. That's really hard. Going to school every day with the fear, not knowing what's going to happen and not having time with their dad. I can't imagine that being very beneficial, but being able to be home and learn how to process it and identify, okay, now I need to take a break because I'm feeling things very intensely. You know what I mean? Learning how to handle the emotions and things. That's a really, really big deal. What other values do you think you had? What were your core values, each of you? I want to hear what your core values are for your homeschool.
Well, if I can to touch back on that same sort of thing that you were just saying, like when I was in the classroom, I did actually have a student at one point whose father did have cancer and eventually did pass away from that. And I, as a young teacher, didn't fully comprehend. I didn't know, and not having been through that, I didn't really know what to do with that at the time, other than be compassionate and give him a break where he needed to, have a break as best as I could. It was rough. I didn't fully know how to handle that at the time. When it happened in our own family, it was very good to have them at home. And then that reminded me, though, as we were talking about being in the classroom with 20 some odd kids, I did the best I could to meet each child where they were at whatever level they were at, whether it was academically or socially or whatever it was. But realistically, I'm like one person with 20 whatever kids. Logistically and in all practicality, it's not necessarily possible for me to meet every child's needs as much as I wanted to. Having my own kids at home, obviously a much smaller classroom, quote unquote classroom, and so much easier to do that, to address those needs.
Especially when you're their mom, you can tell when
Yeah.
people are hitting their limit and when they're not coping well, you can tune in and they're free to share their feelings with you.
Yeah, that was our goal. And we didn't always do everything perfectly by any means, which we can talk about another time, but definitely had more of an opportunity because they were right under our roof most of the time. Relationships in general are important, and training them up under the Lord is important.
What about you, Michelle?
Having a core purpose is like our marriage vows. The marriage vow isn't our marriage, but it does sustain our marriage and the commitment we have made to one another. So when we go back to those vows, it reminds us and sets parameters about what we're doing. The words we have spoken help us in those hard times to keep going. The journey you set before you, when you go into a marriage, you say yes to one person, therefore you say no to everybody else. When you choose to homeschool your kid, you say yes to your children, therefore you say no to other things. And that's the nature of being limited human beings. You can't say yes to 5 things unless you break it up, have your different days for those different things.
When you're saying yes to your children, what are you saying no to?
When you're saying yes to your children at home as opposed to in the school, obviously you're saying no to the same kind of structured learning environment that a school has, right? No, you'll set that up differently. Some will still say, hey, when we do school, we're going to work work at an hour on math, and then they have a very formal schedule for the day. Some don't, but it's still they're the ones setting the schedule. But if you set that schedule, it means you're not going grocery shopping in the middle of the morning. You are having to plan for certain things after your school time. You are saying no to coffee with your girlfriends in the middle of the day. If you're homeschooling, there's so many things. This was the hardest part for me in homeschooling is it actually is a full-time job. It's a real job. Just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. That was the hardest thing for a lot of friends or family to comprehend. They're like, "Oh, you're home with your kids. You can do this." No, I actually can't. I have to say yes to my kid and their education, which means I have to say no to whether it's a Bible study or a meetup group or any of these other things, unless it fits in that educational model, the why of what I'm doing. Now, teaching that right, one of our core values is people are more important than things. People are actually more important than a schedule, but you still have work you have to get done. So we had to learn how to balance, hey, you still have your math, but a friend's father just died. We need to go be with that family. How do we balance these two very important things? Well, because people are more important than things, we go and take care of the people, but you still have to do the things. You just have to find another way to do it.
You have to always take it back. Does this fit into why I started homeschooling? Why I want to continue homeschooling, whether it's an activity or whether it's an event or something you're volunteering for or a responsibility you're taking on? What are the other things that can distract us? Let's try to think about all the distractions. Social groups,
Bazillion.
church groups. You can be at, people ask you to work on projects, responsibilities, volunteer projects, volunteer roles, even being able to take a break. When you were talking about all the things that you are saying no to homeschool your kids, you're also saying no to the luxury of have a morning to yourself to just sit if you need to cope with things if you need to, right? Like you're losing that downtime, that privacy time to do whatever you want to do when, you know, somebody else down the street might have dropped off their kids and now it's her time going to the gym. That's always been really hard. Like I've wanted that time and it's like, there's not time. I can't do that. Now my kids are older and we can go together. It's huge. So what you have to do is look and say, what is my why? And how does every single thing that I do affect that and affect my kids in that and how they're going to receive it?
Are you looking for a supportive community to walk with you through your homeschooling journey? Look no further. Statheros Academy is your go-to umbrella school for fulfilling legal reporting requirements in Colorado. But what if you don't live in Colorado? We still serve you through our support tools and services. At Statheros Academy, we're not just another institution. We're your partners in education, providing comprehensive support services designed to empower, encourage, and equip you to be the best homeschool parent that your children deserve. Teacher and student IDs, parent and professional evaluations, attendance logs, record-keeping services, DIY high school transcripts, or our official homeschool high school transcript service produces personalized transcripts that highlight your students' unique accomplishments. High school diplomas celebrate your family's achievement when you successfully complete the adventure. Additionally, our experienced homeschool coaches provide one-on-one support throughout your journey. Custom tailor your homeschool support system by selecting one of our 3 enrollment packages based on your family's needs. This way, you can get exactly what you need to make the most of your homeschooling experience. We come alongside you in the way you want to be supported, whether that's the bare minimum or holding your hand each step of the way. The Umbrella School Statheros Academy provides what you want the way you want it. So why wait? Enroll with Statheros Academy today and unlock a world of possibilities for your homeschooling journey. Go to theumbrellaschool.com to learn more and sign up. We can't wait to serve your family.
Does it add to the culture of my why, or does it take away from the culture of my why? Does it support my why and what I want to build and develop in my home, or is it going to distract from it, complicate it, completely thwart it, mow it down like it doesn't even exist? Because it's really easy to get caught up in things. I remember one time, this was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was, there were so many different curriculums that I wanted to do, so many subjects I wanted to do, so many programs and opportunities, and I was definitely suffering from FOMO. You know how it is in Colorado. There's so many opportunities especially in Colorado Springs, like you can gag on it. I mean, it's really kind of obscene how many options there are for homeschoolers in
Too many.
Colorado Springs. It is. It's a lot. And people get involved in so many things and then they're busy and then they don't even have time for the real homeschooling and they're disconnected from each other. They're disconnected from even having real friendships because they're so busy in all the organized programs and they're going from this thing to that thing to that thing that they're not often. I mean, this was for me. I realized I wasn't having like genuine community where I was connecting with other people because they were too busy going from this thing to this thing to this thing, or I was too busy doing the same thing. At the time, we were living in a 2-story house and our living room, and there was like a living room and entryway, and then it was upstairs, and there was like this balcony where we could look down. And so what I did is I took every single curriculum that I was thinking about doing for my kids for each boy. So there were 3 rows, and then each activity and all the things that I wanted to do. That was like me feeling pressure that we needed to do. And then I lay them on the floor, 3 rows, one for each kid, but end to end to end. So it was this kind of math, and it was this kind of English, and this kind of history, and this kind of science, and this elective, and this elective, and this elective, and then this program, and I end to end so that they made a big line down the floor. And then I had them stacked next to each other. And then I went upstairs, and this wasn't intentional. I just happened to do it. I went upstairs and I just looked down from this balcony at it, and it took my breath away at how much was there and what I was potentially putting on our family and on my kids and how much stress that was going to cause them. And I just stood there for a minute and looked at it, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And just having the visual of what I was actually considering and looking and trying to cram into the school days and trying to cram into our lives and our schedule and our mental capacity and our emotional capacity, I was like, bad mom, that is not okay. Like, we need to seriously cut this back. And being able to look at it that way with some kind of like a physical representation of how and especially because it took over my entire living room and then went into the entryway. It was huge, y'all. It was huge. I can't even tell you. It was crazy.
That's
To
funny.
see it literally like taking over my home the way it would have. It was a good representation of what it would have done to our family had I tried to pull that off, do that to my poor little children, you know? So I think what we have to do, if you can make a physical representation of the things that you're considering somehow, whatever it is, like if you're trying to put it in the calendar. And I'm not a huge fan of hour by hour schedules, but what helped me is when I actually did that to account for the time. Like, what do we really have time for? Like, it's really going to, especially now that it's so congested in Colorado and it takes so much longer to drive everywhere. It reminds me of when I lived in California. You can't just go run somewhere in 10 minutes anymore. It's horrible. When you factor in how long does it take to really get ready in the morning? How long does it really take for your routines, for everybody to get going and to get settled to work and get focused, and then to go to this program or to go to that program and to do this and to do that? How does that all fit into what your core values are? Think about what's your why and get really hyper focused on that when you're considering what are you going to do for next year. The school year is winding down and it's crazy and we're getting ready to plan for next year, and just really think about what you're doing as you're considering things, but then also in the hard moments when you want to give up. Have either of you ever wanted to give up? We've talked about coping stuff before, but have you legitimately ever wanted to quit homeschooling or thought maybe you should quit homeschooling?
Oh yeah, I definitely have. You, Michelle?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many times where I'm like, am I really the one to help my child? Like
Mhm.
right now, I feel like I can't help myself. How can I help my child? But also realizing that it's never not my job to be their parent. So that kind of brought it back. And in talking to different ones, I mean, you do what you have to do for each kid, and each kid is unique and different. That's why I say your core why, your core values don't change. But I think sometimes there's a year where your mission is different than it was the prior year because different kids need different things.
Definitely.
And so sometimes you look at, oh my gosh, this one child is faltering. They kind of are our focus this year. It's not that we don't love and provide and help and teach the other kids, but there's going to be a little extra going into this one child. And the others will learn how to cope, and their turn will come, and we'll talk them through it at their age level and developmental level. You know, this one's mental health needs to be taken care of right now. This one's need for reassurance and building confidence needs to be taken care of right now. Those are some of the things you can't wait on. You can't put on the back burner. Under it all, we're a big reading family. So as long as they have piles of books, I feel like they're learning math and reading every single day. But the other values that will come in that then define, I guess in a way, are like those marriage vows that give me the parameter so that Now I can make it look unique for each kid if I have to, but I want them to grow in faith. I want them all to have a love of learning, integrity, an ability to think critically, fortitude, because life is hard, compassion, and kindness. And then you were talking earlier, Colleen, that you don't think academics is on your mission. And thinking of those core values of mine, the academics are secondary. The character is primary. It's hard. I mean, that's why fortitude, but it means we are, as the moms, right, have to be the example of it, even when we want to give up. So we talked about those coping skills before. Sometimes you run back and go, fine, picnic.
You know, I hear a lot of business owners say this. They would rather have somebody apply and hire somebody who has solid character than who got good grades. People with good character who are teachable, you can teach them anything. And those are the people that business owners want working for them. Those are the people that, you know, colleges want to bring into their schools to teach. That's who teachers want to teach. I feel like when you're addressing those character issues and the really important things, mental health, spiritual health, physical health, when you're taking care of that whole child, I feel like academics will come for the kids who need it. And like some kids just aren't academic, and that's okay. Then I'm not going to make that a priority for a kid who is not academically inclined. What is their natural bent? How do we need to support that kid? Because if they're not naturally inclined to academics, they're not going to go to college, but they still want to feel good about themselves and be a productive member of society. And they still want to be able to provide for themselves and for a family as they get older. I strongly feel like those come when you're handling the whole child well. I think that's probably one of my core values is the whole child health on all those levels and good character and, like you said, fortitude. I want them to have grit. I want my kids to be really gritty. I want them to be able to handle what's going to come, and I want them to be tough and strong, and I want them to be fair and kind and objective. Those are my core values. And I feel like the academics will handle themselves.
Will you clarify what you mean by the academics aren't as important? Because I know you, and you're not saying that you don't teach and you don't focus on academics, because home education is still what we're after. But I
Sure.
think we need to clarify.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm not going to freak out if my kids get a B. I'm not looking for 4.0s. I don't care if there's a C in there. But it's also based on their abilities. Like if I know they're capable of something, then I expect there to be good grades. If they're capable of it, and I'll tell them, this is how I say it. Like, you're too smart for this and you're too good at this subject. You need to fix this. Like, this is not going to work out. So whatever we got to do to fix this, we're going to fix it. But I'm going to be way more upset if I see them being unkind or unfair, or if I see them wanting to quit. That's where I'm going to crack down hard. But no, I don't let academics slide. We're doing our academics every day. And yeah, that's a good call. Thank you, Michelle, for clarifying that, because I don't want anybody to think I'm telling them, don't teach all the academic subjects. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's a good clarification to make.
You are hurting your children if you don't focus on academics. If you're home educating, you need to educate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you
That's
for
why
clarifying that. That's so important. Kim, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, we talked kind of about freedom and how it's great to be able to follow your own schedule and not somebody else's. On the flip side of that is, in working with a lot of different families over the years, I've heard more than one story about people who had been in a school situation whose either teacher or principal had said, you're going to be in trouble if you take your kids on vacation somewhere. You can't be gone for X amount of days. You're only allowed this amount of days. It really was taking away the time from the family and those relationship building kind of activities. And that got me thinking too about how much time. I had read something recently, so I was trying to look it up today, about how many hours we have with our kids. Essentially, if you figure a child in a classroom is there 6 hours a day, and you multiply that out, over how many months, how many years, you're looking at, over the course of say 12 years, it came out to something like 48,000 hours that they are either with you or not with you, in a classroom or with you. And that's a lot of hours. 48,000. You can do a lot in your relationships with that amount of time. And so that was important to kind of remember. And then also, high on our value system was wanting them to love learning in general, also knowing how to learn what they wanted to learn. So focusing on, maybe, I want you to do math, and math is important to me, me, but let's figure out how to help you love that and how to figure out what you want to learn. Like my older son learning Japanese, my younger son learning coding, things that are completely out of my skill set, completely. By the time they were older, they knew how to pursue those paths on their own and they knew how to chase what they love. Those are important things too.
That's a big one. Learning how to learn.
Yeah.
That's a big core value. I just did the math for 48,000 hours. That is almost 5.5 years.
Can you imagine? It's a lot. Yeah.
5.5 years. Like that's 24 hours a day, 5.5 years. That is so much
that's
time.
without, like you said, without sleeping time. If you add sleeping time in, it's going to be more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like double, right? I mean, even
Almost.
more. Well, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I don't know if you guys have seen that visual. I've seen it in a couple different places where it shows a couple of different jars that have maybe marbles or ping pong balls or something. And it shows how many, weekends, your child might have at church versus how many hours you have with them at home. And it's just significantly different, So if you, like you were saying earlier, Colleen, about having a visual, anytime you can have a visual like that to help you remember and where your priorities lie, I think that's a really good thing.
This reminds me, Stacy posted this in the Essence of Homeschooling Facebook group. The average American mom spends 13.5 hours with her children per week. The average American homeschool mom spends 77 hours with her children per week, 5 times as much.
Which makes sense when you think about how many hours a day they would otherwise be in a school.
Thinking this all through, I think Stephen Covey said it very succinctly. You achieve inner peace when your schedule is aligned with your values. So when you know your why, you can actually homeschool from a place of peace.
So good.
That is really good.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Be sure to check out today's show notes for all applicable links and additional resources. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring you great content. Until next time, happy homeschooling. Are you interested in doing a professional homeschool evaluation but feel uneasy about having someone look at your students' work? Do you have questions about the process and how everything comes together? Get our guide to stress-free homeschool evaluation techniques with our expert guidance. Don't miss out on this helpful information. Go to today's show notes for a copy of our ultimate guide to stress-free professional homeschool evaluations.